greatest joy to welcome into studio this morning Joanne Callan.
Good morning, Ron.
And that tells us it's Thursday.
It is indeed, yes.
It also tells Thursday being the day before Friday.
That's it.
And Friday is a very significant day in the firmament. This Friday, a very significant day, because it's the day of the total eclipse of the sun.
Yeah, well, I think partial, but
maybe
fairly we'll see.
It depends how far north you are.
Yeah.
The further north, the more
further
you'll
north, the more
it'll be
it'll
covered. Yeah.
But I think it's about 95%.
Something
here,
like that.
So
Sister Moon is taking control over Brother Sun.
that's it, and then we've also spring equinox this weekend as well.
Wow.
So a lot of shift and change happening out there in the,
Do you reckon
in the universe.
that there is a kind of a connectivity with it here on this planet?
Well, I mean, how do we avoid it? I mean, if we're, if we rely on the sun and for whatever reason it changes and the moon's, as you say, taken over, I mean, that has to have, it has to have more, we're greater than just this, I think.
I suppose we are.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Be. So, I mean, our connection with nature, and if the moon has the power to control the tides, and we're one third, we're
one third
water.
One third
water.
We're all screwed up. It pulls us for a bit.
How does it determine what water's in the sea and what water's in us? I mean, it's just got an effect and a pull on water, so it has to have. It obviously has to have some effect somewhere along the line.
Hadn't thought of it that way.
I suspect it's different for different people, possibly, but maybe if we're aware of it. Sometimes what I find is whenever you point out how the moon can affect people, and I know we've touched on this before because it's more particularly women, just because we have a higher water mass, but and also the moon being more feminine and that kind of stuff. But if it's, sometimes maybe people are feeling a change. Might be a lot of energy, might be lower energy, whatever might be going on for them, and they'll put it down to just a random occurrence. But actually, maybe when they look, it's maybe not just so random.
As you say, we're more than just skin and bone.
Yeah,
there's something
a bit
else
more
going
to us.
on
Who knows
there.
what that is or whatever? But I like to. I personally believe that it has to have some impact.
Have you determined the propitious moment at which the event will occur tomorrow?
I believe it's about 9:30
in the morning.
Yes, so about before your program ends, we'll have.
I think we will have a
descended into darkness.
We will, Damien. We will allow ourselves to be descending into darkness, and then to be resurrection people to come back up again.
And as I say, very timely that it's at the spring equinox and stuff as well.
It's interesting indeed.
Yeah.
What was I going to say to you? It'll come to me in a moment, but what were you doing this week?
This week, this week has went by in a bit of a whirlwind. I think everybody's feeling a bit changed. Obviously, St. Patrick's Day. So even this morning, last night, I had to remind myself that it was Thursday.
Yeah, it's
today
because there's a sort of falseness
St. Patrick's
in there.
Day kind of
everybody thought it was the weekend.
Weekend a little bit, yeah. So so this week has been one of those kind of funny weeks. Plenty going on, but obviously I had. What was I? On Sunday, I was doing some more of my homeopathy course, so I had that going on, and some Relaxed Kids events. And
remind me about homeopathy, because we know about the reflexology, and we've tied that in with the sort of pressure points that lead to assist in various parts of the body. You've told us about that before. Homeopathy.
Homeopathy is a new, I've been using and been familiar with homeopathy for personal use for quite a while, for many years, but I've decided to do so. I'm training hopefully to be a homeopath. A homeopath. So, homeopathy is, a lot of people would maybe be familiar with arnica for bruises and stuff like that. So arnica is a homeopathic remedy. Would be probably the most commonly known one. Other people might be familiar with homeopathic teething powders for babies. Those will be homeopathic based, and basically homeopathy is again, it's another holistic modality that supports health and well-being. And in terms of it's given in tablet form, or what's known as pills. So basically little white balls, I suppose, is really what they look like, or creams or tinctures. So that's the format, and the ingredients are so diluted that there's actually no toxicity in it, but it works on the principle of like healing like. So it's basically working with the body's own healing system.
And those of us who are tempted to slightly turn our noses up at it, we should remember that science went into the forests of Brasilia in order to get plant life material to turn into the anesthesia and the pain-killing medicines of the world.
You know, when we talk about nature and we talk about how it can affect us and things like that, you know, the planet was given. My belief is that the world provided all that we needed to be well. So the answers lie somewhere in nature.
We've really messed about with nature. It came to my mind when I was considering the tragedy a week ago in that low-lying island nation, the archipelago of in the South Pacific. The awfulness of the storm that came to Vanuatu, and it struck me, you know, that's not just coincidence. That's global warming coming to pay a call and to tell us to be careful and to be aware.
But I think that, you know, the global warming one's an interesting one, because as long as the world has existed, we've had, obviously not at the rate to which we have it today, and there's different reasons being attributed to that. But, you know, we went from ice age to warm. We went from, you know, so we're, that's part of that is part of the world. I suppose we try to resist sometimes the change. Not to say that obviously we need to be more environmentally friendly, but even just from the fact of view that
the weapons we had in those other times to create mayhem were nothing in comparison to the weapons, if I can use that word, that we have today to do it.
And I mean, we literally don't have enough resources. If the rest of the world lived as the Western world lived, we would need a serious, you know, an awful lot more earth.
It's shameful what we do.
Yeah, we would need, I think there are statistics, but I think we'd need something like 27 Earths if everybody in the world lived as Americans in the Western world do. So it's, I mean, it's just crazy. We're depleting resources left, right and centre. And things like plastics and stuff that just don't go anywhere. I mean, I remember reading a quote one time which said, you know, it was talking about throwing stuff away, and it said, where is away? There is no away.
There is no away.
It goes somewhere.
I like that. I like that.
And, you know, we throw things away and we disposable this and disposable that, but they're not disposable because they're lying in the earth for thousands of years.
An appropriate moment to congratulate those people who last weekend, we Love Our Lock people, who went and collected all the rubbish and all the plastic and all the rest of it.
As much as, and I mean,
and
that was...
they had bags upon bags upon bags of it.
Yeah, and I saw, you know, trucks and things carrying it away and things like that. And, you know, we could do that on every street, every village, every place, you know, roundabout. You only have to drive around the countryside and, you know, we've such a beautiful place. But even, just last week I was coming off the motorway, sort of onto the Chancellor's Road, off the bypass onto the Chancellor's Road, and you know, the amount of rubbish and just bottles and things that were strewn along the side, the ditches and stuff.
It's a dreadful sadness in there for us.
Someone, you know, yes, I get, like, there's the fly tippers and there's the big rubbish, which is an obvious blight on the landscape. But these were just, you know, these were bottles of water and things, stuff that people had thrown, and you know, that's away, so it's away and it's gone. But
can you understand the concept of people just throwing stuff at their feet as they're walking along? If you walk from here down to the canal on this side of the street, you'll fill a bag with incidental rubbish,
bits and pieces.
Everything from the horror of cigarette ends all the way through to plastic bottles.
I'm not sure that in the towns it's just so bad now. I mean, I think there's, you know, we've done pretty well with bins and stuff like that. Yes, there's still an amount of rubbish. I have to believe somewhere in there that it's just people just don't maybe think. It's just it's not, I don't believe anybody really does it intentionally, or at least I hope they don't.
I saw something yesterday evening. There was a gang of young lads down at the shore in Warren Point, where the slipway goes in, and there's a central railing down the slipway from the land out into the sea, and the lads were or started to pull on it to try and break it. So intervention proved necessary. And from my vantage point above them, I knew, a bit like the Borneo orangutans, I had to make the right noise to stop it.
Yes.
Well, I kind of did make the right noise. And it stopped like that. Yeah. And they slunk away, and as the wee Philip, who has been at it, was coming up, I'm still looking down, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he looked up, and as he looked up, I went like that. And he gave me a smile and a thumbs up. The lesson had been learnt, but it was carelessness, and they hadn't thought about it. No, don't break it because it's necessary. It's there for a reason.
It's just, it's a which is interestingly today's program is that I have on Destination Wellbeing today is raising happy, confident children. So it's and I think there is that element of responsibility on all of us to socially support young people as well, and to allow them from a very young age to realise that there is cause, there is effect, and that
absolutely.
That there's a bigger world out there, and just to try and...
I was hugely pleased with the way the wee lad responded. Because he could have responded in an angry way, he could have responded in a difficult way of some kind, it could have been a problem for him, but the second inquiry, you okay? And then and suddenly the world became a rainbow, it was all good.
And he realised, he got the message, the penny dropped somewhere along the line.
That was it. So this part of your program today is then dealing with happy, confident kids.
Children, yes. So I've Sonia Longridge, who's co-author, along with her late husband, of a book called Raising Happy, Confident Children. So, which is it's a challenge for today's parents. I was listening yesterday on the radio to, there's an Irish author, and I didn't quite get her name because I only caught a little bit of it, who has brought out a book, and it's something to do with cotton wool children, or
you wrap them and you don't let them adventure.
Yeah, and society has kind of found its way into that space for various different reasons, but we maybe need to look at how we can overcome those reasons and allow children to learn really to trust their intuition and to be safe and to learn, how to look.
Three words come to mind, and I offer them to you out of my vast treasure trove of experience. Cowboys and Indians. That's what we used to play in the meadow when we were growing up the rocks, where Derry Beg was built subsequently, and where the church is. We used to be playing that. And there's some. Well, interestingly, what this lady was talking about was that in terms of maybe where children are playing, and it is a difficult balance to get because society is different and it has changed, and there are, I suppose, more. I'm not so sure if there's more risks, but there's certainly more awareness of the risks. Is probably one of the things. I mean, yes, in terms of cars and things like that, there's obviously more in the road, but there's definitely more awareness of the risks that may be involved, whether that's health and safety, whether it's potentially offenders, sexual offenders in the area and stuff like that. So, but there's more awareness of those things, and but this lady was talking about. She said, now children are set out, they're out to play. And parents are taking it in turns to watch the children in a structured, formal way. What she was saying is that watching was done in generations gone by or in years gone by as in a more subtle way. It wasn't just as it was just as structured. But what she was saying then was that it wasn't play because the parents observing would introduce the adult's view of fair play and all this kind of stuff going on. Don't you be doing that to him.
Don't be doing that. So children actually didn't learn to figure things out for themselves and to work out, or they aren't learning how to figure things out for themselves.
Very important question to ask you. Where did you get such a wise head?
Well, who knows? Lots of listening, I suppose, because that was obviously insight from listening in and listening into a conversation, and it struck a chord with me. I thought, it's interesting because we're they're out playing. Yes, physically they're maybe moving and getting the exercise, absolutely. But they're not learning the social skills. I
make the more generic point. You have a wisdom about you, and you're a very young woman.
Thank you.
And it seems to all come together for you.
Well, I suppose it's maybe being interested in the world and the world around and observing, or maybe, you know, I think we are, as we think we've maybe had this conversation, we are who we are, and when you don't know who you are other than anybody else.
Thank God you didn't keep it the coffee, because you could have ended up as Graham Finnegan. Well, that would have been dreadful.
Well, who knows? I mean, I think there's a big role. A lot of it actually probably stems from that observation. I mean, coffee shops are a fantastic place to work with people and to get to know people.
And she's coming on the programme on Monday. I had the most wonderful conversation with a beautiful young woman in Grounded yesterday, and it went in a most interesting way. I'm sitting there, and we're just a chair apart, and subconsciously I decided I shan't greet this girl because it could be misunderstood or something. I shan't. And then I suddenly, for no reason, I said, "Hello, how are you? It's nice to see you." And she smiled, and she said, "It's lovely to see you. How are you?" And a conversation ensued. So here, from a situation of a barren conversational world, a little step was taken and people started talking. And it turns out she's in the business of learning to be a personal trainer, and she had lost her mommy and daddy some time back. And a lovely conversation ensued, which focused me on the notion that we should push the boat out occasionally, take the chance, and have a conversation, because you can create a beautiful little moment of importance in the voyage of life.
Well, interestingly, my first post on Facebook this morning, and for anybody that follows my Facebook, they'll know that I'm constantly kind of sharing messages and different things. But the number of people that kind of then say to me off, you know, maybe not publicly or anything like that, "Joanne, that message you sent the other day really made a difference or touched me," you know. So it's that kind of stuff that motivates the sharing, I suppose. It's not really, because it's so easily done when you follow the right pages, that you can share something that might resonate with people. So apologies to anybody that my messages bore or look and go, "Oh, here she goes again." But
the bee.
Yes, my bee. I saw my first bee yesterday.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes, and I shared that, and then it struck me
that's
that
wonderful.
You know,
And what about? Have you seen a swallow yet?
No,
they're not back yet.
No, I haven't seen.
We want all of you out there to keep an eye out for the swallows.
Yeah, I have bee.
Don't keep an eye out for them. They'll nest in it if you do.
Yeah.
But when you see a swallow, do let us know, because it's a great moment.
I've had bees and I've had butterflies. I had a butterfly in my house last week.
Wow. You did. You looked up at the lamp in your kitchen and you
But
saw
it came back then 2 days later. And I have birds nesting in my porch.
Thank God.
And their nest has. Well, they've been there since January, so I'm guessing they're wrens. Someone said they were wrens, but their nest has now collapsed. But there's a little bit of it, and they're there. So, but yes, my first post this morning, back to when you step out of your comfort zone, was, you know, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I think you know, we often live our life and our days with being, you know, not stepping out of the comfort zone, and it's when we do, we've got this central little spot in our own universe, but when we step out of it, that's where the magic happens, and we start.
But there are even, you know, it has to be said too, that even when we do all the right things, even when we do take the chances, even when we do push the boat out, that there can be a lack of success, an awkwardness that flies in the face of logic, and it doesn't work. But that should not be a reason for not trying.
No, and it's potentially a lesson in itself. And there's I don't know who said it, but somebody said, some wise person once said, "There are no mistakes, there's only lessons."
This is true, you know.
It's whether we learn them or not, or whether we keep making keep trying to learn the same lesson over and over and over again, or whether we learn it the first time and think,
Joanne Callan, of Try the Alternative and Destination Wellbeing, 3 o'clock today. I allow you to return, not that I can disallow you, but please return to your mountain eyrie of wisdom, the place where you are the guru of all things well-being.
Off to do some baby reflexology this morning with Sure Start.
God bless you. Go
Thank
well.
you, Ron.
Take care. All the best.